going out there in podcast world? I hope you're having a great day. You're listening to, or you might be watching, we're live on the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh. Today's episode, great one, by the way. They're always great, but we have ThermoGRID on with to talk about some really cool things. So we have Mary Lent. She is with ThermoGRID, and we're going to talk about automating our daily day-to-day activities as far as with the business goes. And it's one of those things that if you've listened to the podcast, watched the podcast, know much about us, if you're local here in Savannah, if you know Julie and I, you know that we automate a lot of things, whether it's social media or just our, in general, we do a lot of automation. And so we're going to talk today about with Mary about how to automate day-to-day operations and using a program like ThermoGRID as your CRM, if you have a service-based business, to help reduce the need for additional manpower or to help keep you sane as a business owner, because it's one less thing you have to remember to do every day. You might be like Julie. She keeps checklists, and she's the checklist queen. So if you look in her office, she has a tons of checklists, just things to do, and it's just normal things. And so this using a program like this helps alleviate having the checklist. I'm the typical man, so I don't need a checklist. I'm just going to remember it all, which means I'm probably going to forget it all. So, but anyways, welcome to the show, Mary.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about ThermoGRID before we get started.
Yeah. So I'm not your typical marketing manager for a company. I come from a long-standing, about 10-year background in ICU, ER, trauma nursing. So definitely not... didn't think growing up that this is where I would be in my life, but it's where I'm at. Actually ended up starting with ThermoGRID a year ago today. Today's actually been a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So started with ThermoGRID and came into interview and loved the atmosphere that the office had. Was kind of took a step back when I did my interviewing, actually, because of their interview process. And the interview process is just very, what's the best way to put it? Directed at getting a large volume of client or of people to interview. So I was not expecting a group interview, which is
oh yeah, that's exactly how we do it. So
yes. And so as you get into ThermoGRID, and now that I've been with ThermoGRID, I understand that the reason that interviewing is done that way is because our owner comes from the HVAC world.
right.
We actually do coaching within our platform as well, and that is one of the pieces that Adam does coach on is recruiting. And it's exactly how he teaches businesses to recruit, is how he does his own hiring.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it was interesting to kind of learn that, but definitely watched as he put those values on the board of where our company comes from. And, the number one thing was integrity. And, I take that back. Our number one thing is clients come first. Then it was integrity, growth, and excellence. And as I was kind of watching that, I'm like, I could get on board with that. Clients come first, patients come first. I could kind of mesh those together. So was able to just kind of see the similarities between what I had done for so long and what I would be doing with ThermoGRID. And decided why not give it a shot. And I learned their software so that I could demo the owner on his own software. And immediately came back to him and said, how are you not selling this to more companies than just HVAC companies? Sky's the limit here. Yeah. And ended up saying I would love to take on the challenge and have done a very diligent effort at getting ThermoGRID's name out there over this last year.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
so definitely, Adam didn't give you any pressure, put any pressure on you about trying to demo to him.
No, well, not as much pressure as you'd think it would be.
Yeah.
When he stated, "Don't worry, you won't pass. Nobody ever does the first time."
No.
It kind of made it so that you kind of knew it was
Yeah.
okay to not have it down pat.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
the
Totally.
second time around was a little nerve wracking,
Yeah.
knowing that that's what you were proving is that you were coachable. So
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Cool, cool. So today we're going to talk about automation and just, automating our daily lives. But one of the ways that we can do that is by bringing on a program like ThermoGRID. Before I forget, because I know that you have a special offer for the listeners and everybody. Um, what is that before we even start the show?
absolutely. So currently we have a promotion going on, WTF.
Hmm.
It's what you're thinking it is. It's actually for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we are currently offering 25% off of our setup investment to any new clients that are coming aboard. So demo Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever fits into your schedule, and purchase on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and get 25% off of your setup investment.
Sweet, 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 sweet. Okay, cool. So, um, anybody, as I was saying in the intro, that anybody that listens to me or knows me knows that we automate a lot. And one of the things that we've done is uh, we've been able to not bring on more office staff than what we have because of automation. And so we're going to talk about some of those automation features on today's show, and hopefully we get through all of them. But because there's a lot of automation that's done, and hopefully won't get too far into the weeds. But I know there's some of these things that we really enjoy, and they really help out our life. The first one I think we're going to talk about is job notifications. Explain to me how that's automated.
Yeah. So, well, let me kind of preface this by saying, our owner came from the industry. So he
Mhm.
worked every role in the industry and he knew all of those challenges of not having things automated. So that's really where ThermoGrid was built. So when you mention hopefully we get through them all, it may be difficult to do because ThermoGrid really was designed to take the stress out of those day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
So everything in ThermoGrid was done a certain way to make it so that something else didn't take nearly as long to
Right.
complete. So with our job notifications, so work order, whatever you would like to call it, as soon as somebody calls and schedules with you, we have notifications that can automatically get sent out. It is something you can choose to disable if
Okay.
you want them to go out. However, we do find benefit in having those just sent directly to the client. It is a template that we give you. You're able to edit it, change it to whatever works best for your company, giving them a time frame of when you're going to be there versus an actual time.
Cool.
And it gets sent directly to the client. You don't have to input their information. All of that's in the system. It pulls it from the client's information and sends them a text and or an email.
Okay.
Um, and if we're emailing the client an automatic email, we can even include a picture of the technician, a little biography about them, include information of who they're expecting.
Yeah, that's always nice. It is really cool to because we have ours set up so that it's got a little backstory and everything else about the tech, and they can see a picture of them, and then it personalizes it. And then whenever they come to the door and knock, there's already that relationship that they've built, even though it's just over an email, which is really it's a really cool process, and we get tons of great feedback because of that. The Is there any automation? Because I don't know this right off the top of my head. Is there any automation after the fact? Or
Yes, so we can set up automation after the fact.
okay,
About how we set up our primary jobs in ThermoGrid. So whether that job be a primary job and we have an automatic notification that goes out to the client that says, how did we do?
yeah,
And you schedule that follow-up appointment a week after the fact, a couple of days after the fact, depending on when you want that to go out. But there's also the ability to have your templates already set and pick and choose when you want to send them. So then it's a matter of just clicking a button saying, hey, send this email. It personalizes it. We use a system where it allows us to input the client's real name instead of saying, hey, just generic. It pulls that information from the client's profile to really make it personalized.
Oh, that's what's up. Cool.
To do
So,
that, it also sends automatic messages to the technicians as well to let them know that this job has been assigned to them so that they're prepared and know, oh, I've got a half hour left. I need to get moving or hustling before my next job.
okay. And does it do that the night before as well?
You can set up different time frames.
Oh,
So for
okay.
the client, we can set stuff up for the client that they're notified a week in advance, a day in advance, an hour before, a minute before, however frequent you want those to be.
Okay.
For the technician, same thing. We set up a primary amount of time that the company typically wants the technicians to be notified, if that's a couple hours before, but then each technician has the ability to go in and add an additional notification. So if they want to be notified personally 15 minutes before, they're able to be
Oh, that's cool.
by text and or email.
Oh, sweet. Cool. So, next we have appointment reminders, and that kind of goes into what we were talking about there already. And then it also kind of leads into some of the others, the PM visits, which we're not going to dive in that rabbit hole yet because that's next. But the appointment reminders and setting that out. So let's dive into that just a little bit.
Yeah. So appointment reminders can be sent out to our clients for multiple different reasons. As I had mentioned, we can send them out to clients to let them know, hey, you've got an appointment coming up. We
Mhm.
can send them out to an entire specific list of clients. If we want to send out an appointment reminder, letting them know, hey, you've got maintenance due this month. So that way, our clients can go ahead and it's more top of mind to them. Like, oh, it has been 6 months already. I do have maintenance that I need to have done. They can go ahead and give you a call, get that scheduled, but we don't have to contact every single client to get that scheduled. We're able to just lump them all together, run that report, and send that right off to them, as well as different areas we can focus on.
Yeah. Not only that, a lot of people are transitioning towards being more paperless and having that communication via email and text message versus the phone call. So they would actually prefer to receive the email and then just say, okay, let's go ahead and schedule it.
Yep, absolutely.
So let's go ahead and get started with the PM visits and kind of go into that.
Yeah, so most companies that do preventative maintenance that we work with, they came from a system where they were either using all paper uh, and tracking that on an Excel spreadsheet. To we had a company that had individual folders for each
Oh yeah.
client, had their history in it, so that they knew what was done at that location. But even if they transfer from a different platform, they are used to having more than one step to be able to manage that preventative maintenance agreement. Where with ThermoGRID, we are meant to, again, increase your profitability. So we want to eliminate as much of that busy work as we possibly can by automating as much as possible.
Mm.
Preventative maintenance agreements, I go out, I sell you a preventative maintenance agreement today, Tersh, and I have my plans. Let's say that I've got 4 different ones. You choose that you want me to come twice a year. So in ThermoGRID already knows what my options are, and it knows that the option that I sold to you has 2 visits. So I come in 6 months and I come again in 12 months. And so when I go and I say Tersh wants to be a maintenance client and I add that preventative maintenance to you and choose which units you are going to have covered under that, it is going to pre-populate my visit dates for me. So I don't need to schedule them. I don't have to be concerned that they're going to get forgotten. I don't need to waste the time scheduling them. It's just going to schedule 6 and 12 months out. It is going to automate my billing. So if you want to be a monthly subscriber, so you want to pay for that maintenance monthly, it's going to charge your card automatically. It's going to accept the payment in QuickBooks, send it to QuickBooks automatically. And if we're utilizing QuickBooks Online's new features, we are actually even able to account for deferred revenue. So that income is going to go to deferred revenue until I perform your first visit. Then half of that money is going to come to my income account, so that it's in that liability aspect, and it's in that account as an asset until I actually perform that work.
Cool. And then, so how does the renewal process work with that?
That's a great question. So we have the option for all of our maintenance agreements to be auto renewed. So once they sign up initially, you get to choose whether that is a maintenance plan that you want to auto renew. So if it's an auto renewal, it will just charge that card, even if they charge that card that following year on that same date, and pre-populate those visit dates for the following year.
Oh, cool. That's really awesome. That is sweet. So how, this is the one I feel like we might spend the most amount of time on. I don't know, maybe not. But it's one that I have a lot of questions just asked of me a lot about inventory and how that can be automated and whatnot. So kind of explain the process and let us know how it's automated and how it relieves that pain point of the inventory.
So anybody that's owned a business, I'm sure you have encountered the occasional, what's the best way to say it? Side jobs being done.
Shrinkage.
You're not necessarily people,
Mm-hmm.
they won't know if I happen to take this and, help my buddy out, or, everybody's been in that position. Nobody thinks it's that big of a deal when it's just one thing, I've earned it. They rationalize why it's okay to go ahead and do that. Where with ThermoGRID, when we have implemented our inventory control for companies, unfortunately, I to be transparent, there isn't a company we have not found somebody embezzling or stealing from the company, because our inventory control is so automatic. It is designed to make it as painless as possible for the actual company. It takes that responsibility and puts it into the employee's hands, instead of constantly being a monkey on your back that you're trying to play catch up with. So there's no way to get away from doing an actual physical count. You do still need to do that when you're setting up your inventory, as well as you should do your inventory at least quarterly if we're able to. But when we set our inventory up, we have a price book already put together in ThermoGRID. And so your price book contains everything that you possibly would sell to the client. And from there, you go into your price book and you decide, what do I want the minimum and the maximum quantities of each item to be on the trucks, in the warehouse, whatever location you are setting up. So you're able to set up multiple locations as well as multiple trucks, and you can assign those then to particular employees. So if I was setting up my inventory, and let's say you were one of my guys, I set up your truck, Tersh, I am going to ask, first of all, if it's something that you're going to be responsible for. Are you taking your truck home? Are you leaving your truck at work? I want to know how much responsibility is going to be on the company in terms of keeping your truck secure, or is it going to be on you? So you're able to kind of give that leeway how you want to, as well as making sure that once you know those areas, you're then able to put everything in place to make it where there's no question. It was in their hands. It was their responsibility, and it's going to know what those limits should be. So with that being said, we have standard inventory stock that we recommend on how much you should keep on a truck, in a warehouse, in those locations. So for companies that are like, I have no idea where to even begin with inventory, we've been there. We can help you out with it. We can get you started. But companies that already know and do inventory, we just implement in what it is that they have on their trucks, how many they want, what the minimum maximums are. And then from there, it's an automatic process. When your technician goes out to a location, and whether it's service work that they're doing or a club membership, or it doesn't matter what they're going there for. They go out, they go ahead and say they have to change a capacitor out this time of year. They head out to a client's home, they change out that capacitor. In order to present an invoice or an estimate to the client, they need to physically go into the price book, select that item, and go ahead and charge the client for it. So when they go into that price book and select capacitor, it's going to tell them how many capacitors are on their truck. So when they see how many are there, they're going to select that capacitor. They're going to let the client know this is what it would cost. Do you want to move ahead with this? When they go ahead and move forward, give signature, make payment, and that technician submits that order, the system is going to automatically pull that capacitor off of the truck and is going to put it on a restock order form on the back end to keep our truck stock where we want it to be.
Cool. And so then we just run that report and then order the parts from the supply house.
Yep. So part of us setting up your account, we want to know who your suppliers are. We want to know what you pay for equipment. Statistically, it's found that if you don't have a price book locked in that you hold your prices to, you get charged $40 difference per part from supply houses. And, we had a client that switched to ThermoGRID and started paying attention to what they were getting charged. Within a 2-month period, they were refunded $10,000 from their supplier.
Wow.
Just from comparing what you told me I was going to pay and what you billed me for.
Wow.
So providing that leads us into, those purchase orders are automatically created by the inventory that we can already tie to the supplier.
Oh, cool. So with that, the POs and having that automated, do we still have to send the PO, or does it automatically go to the supplier, or how does that work?
Good question. So some we still have the flexibility to let companies kind of decide which way would work best for them. Although if we implement ThermoGRID the way that ThermoGRID tells you, recommends we do it this way, companies see a huge transformation in their business. But you can do it both ways to answer your question. So we can have it so that we've already got the supplier's email address. It just pre-populates in there. They just hit email and it emails that purchase order with the model number, serial number, price they agreed upon, how many they need, and then you can also input any notes you need. So I need to pick it up at this time or drop it off at this location. Anything that you need them to be aware of, and you can just email that right to them. If you aren't comfortable doing that, you're also able to print that and take it with, or whatever your process might be.
Now, whenever it does the PO, it automatically generates that PO number and then it tracks it with that. So then so that can help keep up with job costing and everything else.
Absolutely.
Cool. So let's dive a little bit into payroll, and that's something that's kind of a pain sometimes. Sometimes it's not bad, but depending on how well you have it set up, but it can be a pain point for sure.
Absolutely. So with ThermoGRID, we have the ability to track different types of payroll. So you can have hourly employees. We can take care of task-based pay. We can take care of piece rates, spiffs, commissions, a mixture of all of those. We're able to account for all of that. And all of that's done automatically. So you're not sitting there with a calculator trying to figure out, okay, what is the percentage that I'm supposed to give them with this? And then they discounted it. So then I have to discount my commission and any of that out. The system automatically figures it out. You're able to have as many different commission scales as you want in the system. So that already helps people out. I think we've had some companies that went from 3 days doing payroll to down to a couple hours.
Yep.
And being done. But with our payroll report, it's a very complex report. So although we don't pay out of the system and you're not able to physically write checks through ThermoGRID, we are able to run the report where you have everything you need to just input into the software that you use to pay your employees. We are able to account for your PTO, your time off. So employees are able to ask for PTO at any point in time. They're able to create a time off request that will go to the email that we're told to send that email to. That email, once it is approved or denied, the employee is notified either way of what was the decision. If they're approved, it's going to block them off on the calendar, so you can't dispatch to them. It's going to automatically deduct their PTO hours so that you don't have to go in and say, okay, they used 8 hours, now I need to subtract that. It's going to do it automatically. And it's going to put on their payroll report whether or not they took 8 hours of paid time off versus unpaid time off. So it's going to account for that for you.
So they're able to send that request through the program.
Yep. And we, when we set companies up, we show them where they can put their PTO balances from the time that they start with ThermoGRID moving forward. And that's just something yearly. They would go in and change their PTO to what their balance is at that point in time. And
I was going to ask that. Is so it's a yearly balance. So we just pay, like, get an extra week every year. And then I know some companies, they're like, you work this many hours, you get this many days, you get this many hours of paid time off or something like that.
Yeah, so we do a combined bank. So if they have like sick PTO versus just paid time off that they get, they would just bundle that together as a rate of what they are providing.
Cool. So we got a little bit more, but this is probably going to be the last one here. But dealer fees and financing fees.
Yeah. So I would, if I had to put my finger on what made companies the most money when they switched to our software, I would have to say accounting for those dealer fees and financing fees really makes a huge difference.
They'll sneak up on you.
They do. And companies don't, a lot of companies, it's a pain. It's a pain to try to wrap that percentage in, especially when you don't know how the client's going to pay. You're not going to charge the client 3% if they're not paying by credit card. That's illegal. So you don't want to go that route, but at the same time, you want to account for it for every penny that you can. Right. So with ThermoGRID, how our software, I guess, is set up on the back end is we are set up based off of a gross profit margin. As far as I know, we're the only software that goes based off of a gross profit margin. So we don't use markups. We don't use any of that, which allows us then to account for all of these different areas. We just tell the system, is this capacitor an item that the gross margin is going to apply to? Is it a commissionable item? Is it an item that we can go ahead and apply those dealer fees to? All of those areas are already going to be taken care of. And then when you go to present to the client, you're going to have a cash price. And then you're going to be able to say, okay, if you want to pay with a credit card, here's what that rate is. You add a payment with a dealer fee, and it's going to account for those automatically and not leave any stone unturned.
Cool.
To generate you that profit.
Sweet. So I know there's a lot of people might have questions and everything. What's the best way to reach out to?
So you can always reach out to us through Facebook. We have a ThermoGRID Facebook page, a LinkedIn page, Instagram. I'm in the process of creating a TikTok for ThermoGRID. Social media platforms, obviously, you can reach us on. ThermoGRID.org is our website. You're able to see a lot of information there. You're able to request a demo right from there. And you are able to email at any point in time, sales@thermogrid.com. And that comes right to our support center. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, but we do have somebody on call for our support 24/7. So we've got somebody that if there's an emergency going on, you're going to talk with one of us, and we're able to get back to you very quickly and help you through whatever challenges you're having. And of course, they can always reach out to me. You can reach me at Mary.Lent@thermogrid.com, or you can give me a call, 563-217-4020, and always reach out to us by phone as well. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-592-3611.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Website. So there's a lot of ways. We're pretty accessible.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Cool. And if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And I'll add all this ways of contacting Mary and the team in the show notes. But with that being said, thank you again for listening to, watching the Service Business Mastery Podcast, a podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. Until we talk again next week, have a wonderful week and stay cool.